Architectural Board of Review agenda for April 18th. And start with a roll call, please.
Okay, here we go. Chair Moore,
Here?
Vice Chair Six,
Here.
Board Member Anderson,
Here.
Board Member Black,
Here.
Board Member Noon,
Here.
Board Member Olson,
Here.
and Board Member Whalen. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we can move on to public comment, I believe. If anybody in the public would like to address the board, can speak now. Seeing no one, did we receive any written correspondence?
No, we did not receive any general comment. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close public comment and go on to approval of the minutes from April 4th. We can have those up.
Move we accept as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? Okay, let's take a vote.
Okay. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen. Of course, is absent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to the consent calendar for April 11th.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had item A, 1298 Las Positas Road, came for project design and final approval, and it was granted PDA and final approval with some comments, just to make sure that the color was to match. Item B, 812 De La Vina Street was a proposal for 5 new light poles that received project design approval and final approval with comments to reduce the intensity of the lighting. And item C, 1109 San Pasqual Street was continued indefinitely. Restudy some certain things about the parking arrangement. And then lastly, item D, 230 Stearns Wharf was continued indefinitely. They came just for concept review.
Okay.
Move we accept as presented.
I'll second that.
Under discussion,
Yes.
I would like to edit item D, number 3, after the words, they're looking at alternatives to the Marburg shed to provide storage units that will not be higher than the proposed fence height. And number 4, after the words bin, trash and recycling bins now existing outside the fenced yard.
Good. Is that acceptable to the maker of the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, second.
Okay. Anything else? No? Let's vote, please.
With those changes, Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Olson.
Yes.
Okay, motion.
Okay, thank you. And now, April 18th.
Thank you, Chair Moore. Today we had one item, or two, excuse me. 523 Anacapa Street was here for project design and final approval for some landscaping, and that was received project design approval and final approval with some conditions. And item B, 116 East Coda Street, was a review after final for landscape changes, but unfortunately the board had to continue the item indefinitely as the plans that the applicant uploaded did not show specific plant sizes and necessary landscape improvements. So that one got continued, and those were the only two. Thank you.
Okay.
Move we accept as presented.
Second.
All right, any discussion? No? Okay, let's vote, please.
Okay, here we go. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Olson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to announcements, requests by applicants, future agenda items, and appeals. Anything?
Chair Moore, I have two announcements actually, and they're both related. One, the last ABR meeting, you directed us, the board directed us to ask about the possibility of doing remote consent review. And we had the city attorney look into it, and unfortunately, we're not able to accommodate remote consent review at this time, and it really has to do with the Brown Act regulations and how the Brown Act could provide an avenue to do remote meetings, and that no longer applies because council can no longer make the health findings, the emergency health findings. So right now, the old Brown Act teleconferencing rules still apply, and we'll see how that plays out statewide. And so I'm sure it's not the end of the conversation, but the end of it for right now. So that's one announcement. The second announcement is that beginning May 1, we are going to be accommodating remote public comment. So we will be using the Zoom application here to not only support in-person comment, written correspondence, but then to allow people to comment remotely. And so we will be working on that procedure and doing the testing here in the Gebhard room for all of our design review meetings. That doesn't change your status. Again, as board members, you'll need to be in person, but it's for members of the public who wish to participate.
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Anything else from board members? No? Okay, any subcommittee reports? No? Okay, let's move on to item 1. And this is a general plan housing element update. This is a presentation on the general plan amendment to update the housing element of the city's general plan in accordance with state housing element law. Welcome. You can introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Moore and members of the board. I'm Rosie Deisty. I'm with Community Development Department. And today I'm just here with a brief overview of a major work effort that Long Range Planning has embarked on, and it's to update our housing element in accordance with the requirements of state law. The housing element gets updated every 8 years, and ours is due for an update right now and needs to be submitted to the state in February 2023. So we're just getting started on public outreach and a lot of data collection. We'll be working on a draft over the next few months. There'll be a public review period in the summer for the draft. It also goes to the State Department of Housing and Community Development in the summer, comes back to us, and then there's a whole procedure for Planning Commission and City Council adoption. So we have a brief video that Mr. Russell will play for you, and then I'm available for questions after you watch the video.
California law requires all cities and counties to have a plan for how they will meet the housing needs of everyone in the community. When population forecasts are updated, cities like Santa Barbara need to update their plans based on a specific number and types of housing they need to meet future needs. But what if we don't want to build more housing in Santa Barbara? That's normal. But there are actually a lot of reasons why it's important to meet our community's housing needs. Because of the high cost of housing, it can be challenging for cities across California to provide enough affordable housing for working families, seniors, and young professionals. And our children who grow up here can have a hard time staying in Santa Barbara due to housing affordability. Lack of affordable housing can lead to increased homelessness, overcrowding, and the costs associated with managing its effects on the community. Besides, having enough housing for everybody helps fulfill Santa Barbara's community vision to allow as much housing as possible within resource limits to provide an array of options for all residents. And if we don't get a new housing plan approved, the city could be fined, lose state funding opportunities, lose the ability to issue permits, and in the end, not have a say in where new housing should go. So how many new homes are needed? Based on the state's forecast and the local formula, Santa Barbara needs 8,001 new housing units. Of those, almost half need to be affordable to low and very low income households. The updated housing plan must show the exact locations where future housing can be built and how many homes can be built at each location. So how do we decide where new housing should go? And what are considered good places for new homes? Vacant lots not set aside as open space, sites that are underutilized and need rehabilitation, locations where housing could become more dense than it is today, locations near public transit and essential services like healthcare facilities and neighborhood retail centers, areas where housing could be added to commercial buildings or in business parks, creating live-work neighborhoods. And some cities encourage homeowners to build granny flats on their properties. These are called accessory dwelling units. Before we decide what goes where, we need your help. What criteria are most important to you when thinking about where new housing should be located? The decisions we make over the coming months will shape our community for years to come. Let's work together to make sure Santa Barbara's updated housing plan really is the very best one for our city and our future. For more information, visit www.santabarbaraca.gov/HEU.
All right, so that's our overview in the video, and we also encourage you to sign up at that same website that was mentioned there. You can sign up to get notifications when there's going to be drafts available for review or public hearings. Do you have any questions?
Leo?
No questions.
I guess a question would be, other than the website, that's obviously a good place to start. How do we, as a board, figure into that process, and what feedback or what can we provide to your effort?
Yes, Chair Moore. So as a board, I think the best way to be involved in the process is to review drafts when they're available. We will be having a whole new set of programs and policies to help us meet the housing needs of the community. So there'll be opportunities to weigh in on what those programs and policies may be. Stay involved, encourage your members and anyone you know to be involved in this process. And help us develop programs and policies that'll work for our city.
Okay, anyone else? Questions? No? Not right now? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Good luck. All right.
Formality, we need to do public comment.
We will open public comment for that item. If anyone would like to address the board, you can speak now. Seeing no one. And we did not receive any written correspondence regarding this item. Okay, then we will close public comment. Thank you. Okay, how are we doing on time?
Chair Moore, I saw the applicant outside, so
Okay. Looks like we could start if we wanted to.
we can.
Okay.
I know, we haven't done this in a long time.
Do you guys need a third chair?
That would be lovely,
Okay.
thank
And
you.
then while I grab that, I
Thought I missed this till just now.
Okay, so, my pro tip, so we got some handy little tools. You can zoom in using Z, so it's just gonna change your tool. So you can zoom in that way. To go back to a full screen, Control 0. And then if you do find yourself still in the zoom tool and you wanna pan around, use H for hand, and then you can like click and hold. Another method that's somewhat a little finicky, but still works well to zoom in, if you hold Control and then use the scroll wheel, you can zoom in on certain features, and then you can click and pan using that hand tool. So Control 0 is probably one of the more important ones, just to let the screen back. I can give you a second, I can get that.
I'll still working out the kinks.
How's it been going with this system?
Well, this is week 2.
Okay.
So we had a couple of folks. But we're, yeah, the screen.
You guys watch that? Oh, yeah.
So,
And you guys probably just stare at
That view simulation was
Pretty much.
for the most part.
uploaded with the recent submittal, or was it
The days of unrolling plans on the table are gone,
That's-
apparently.
maybe like
Yeah,
a
it's
couple
not-
minutes?
Well, I sort of like that, but. Here we
Missed the magic.
You guys look so much better.
His floating head.
As good.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Sec.
Okay. We are,
I'll stop so I can hear everyone teasing.
let me go slow.
Chair Moore, I'll just have to, I'm gonna pull up one other application material for them, so.
The other tip is to move slowly if you're scrolling back and forth.
Okay. So there's 3 shots of coffee or espresso. Goggles.
Yeah, right. Virtual walk through the site.
Have you done that yet? Yeah. Did anyone get sick yet? That's what we're starting to experience. The virtual reality goggles, a lot of people do it, and people get sick.
Wow.
Something to be aware of.
It's good to sit down.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Sims package. It's a
So are you doing hybrid meetings at all, or everyone's in person? If someone can't make it, too bad. 'Cause I know the county's doing hybrid. Yeah, county's doing hybrid now, which is kind of nice. Yeah.
There's something nice about the online part of it. It streamline things in a lot of ways.
Take one other look.
This is too old. This is very old.
So I have the resubmittal form, and then I have the revised plans that you submitted on the 30th, but do not have a updated USIN. So,
Should have been in there.
and I can show you what we've got on our end. Do you think that maybe it would have been included in those plans? Probably not.
Can I email it to you? Yeah. Should have checked before.
I think we could. It's a view simulation. They had an old one for the last hearing, but not this one. Yeah, if you could email it to.
My suggestion is if, Mr. Chair, if the applicant, one of your team members can email it to us, you can start your presentation for the board's time, and then we can pull that up later.
Yeah, I can kick it off while they walk everyone through it.
Sure.
It's for the
Yeah, and I'll
slide
just-
over.
Chair Moore,
Shouldn't take long.
can we review the previous?
Yeah, we're good. We're not.
Okay, sorry.
We're jumping ahead.
Okay.
You're ready to jump back in?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're going to reopen the meeting and move on to item number 2, which is a continued item here for revised project design approval. And this is at 219 East Haley. The project received project design approval in January of 2020, and the project has been revised to a larger building of 25,224 square feet versus 26,835 square feet, with an average unit size of 741 square feet versus 725 square feet. And the building is proposed to be 48 feet tall versus 45 feet tall. The project also added private rooftop decks and access to townhouse units, fenestrations, and floor plans. The proposal includes demolition of 7 existing structures, housing 8 residential units, and the construction of a 4-story, 34-unit mixed-use development. Also proposed are 2 commercial spaces totaling 1,586 square feet. The proposed density on the parcel will be 61.8 dwelling units per acre on a parcel with a general plan land use designation of commercial, industrial, medium, high residential, which allows 37 to 63 dwelling units per acre in the priority housing overlay. There will be 36 covered parking spaces and 3 parking spaces for the commercial area. And project design approval is requested and requires substantial conformance to the plans that received project design approval on January 27th of 2020. And we last saw this March 7th of this year. If we could have our minutes from the previous review. Okay. So the motion continued indefinitely. The board is generally supportive of the increase in height. However, the board would like the applicant to reduce the roof deck level parapets to the greatest extent feasible, possibly by reducing occupiable roof deck surface on the west elevation, reduce the mass and scale of the Sarah towers on the west elevation, on the east elevation, in the rear portion of the project, provide a setback at the 4th level, similar to the previous project design approval drawings. In general, include all the detailing that was indicated in the hand sketches, remove or greatly reduce the common flex space square footage as well as the leasing office square footage, showing mechanical screening or rooftop equipment. Okay. Welcome back. If you could address those points for us.
Sounds great. Thank
Introduce
you,
yourselves.
Chair
and-
Moore, fellow board members, Ed Devisene, architect with DMHA. Ryan Mills with DMHA.
Kim True, True Nature Landscape Architecture.
Excellent. So we really have 3 things to cover today as topics. So the first is the response to the comments made last time. Also, we've had a design revision as well we want to walk you through and the impacts of that to the project. And then the cleaning up the graphics a little bit, which was one of the comments as well. So with that, let me just kind of move into it. So going into the design revision, the transformer that we had tucked back, we were not able to secure the easement with the neighbor to the west. And so the transformer has been relocated to the front of the project. So Ryan will show you, I'll take you through the impact of the design. And we kept it pretty minimal. You'll see we really just took a strategy to take the space that we had, which we had some good setback there already, and push the building back. So we'll walk you through that in more detail. And then the other things on the cover sheet to point out is, again, I think you mentioned in the description, Chair, that with the pushing and pulling of some of the responses, our average unit size now is 741, more than the original PDA, but less than what we presented to you last time. Some of the units reduced in size to create some mass relief. So I think with that, we can move to the pages. All right, ground level. We'll start here and look at the design change. Let me zoom out a little bit.
Okay, I'll start from the Haley Street side and we'll work our way left. So as Ed mentioned, the big changes are the transformer in that southeast corner of the parcel. So Commercial 101 basically has the same shape, but the facade facing the street was pushed back about, was it can't remember exactly, about 3 feet, between 2 and 3 feet to create the required area. We obviously have pushed the transformer as far south and east as possible. And then, as we have in a previous similar project, corralled it with a screen fence. Obviously, you know it needs to be operable and open to the front side, to the street where Edison would like it. We worked with our utility consultant to kind of get that fine-tuned. So I think we're trying to screen it the best we can and make it an appropriate place. It's out of the way of most of the other projects. So that's really the big move here. And then what we traded with was, you see behind Commercial 101 is that 60-inch bioretention planter, which was previously at the front of the project. So we just had to switch those two zones. Lastly, we found a new home there was one bicycle parking post that was previously in front of Commercial 101. We've now, hunted down a few opportunities, but ultimately landed at placing it adjacent the other bioretention planter along Haley out front. So we thought that was the most appropriate place. So let's go. No other changes.
Is there a way you could
moving
point
back.
these
Yeah,
areas out?
Oh.
If it helps, you can use the mouse. I know it's not
Do you
easy.
want me to- want me to-
The mouse has
Trade.
pretty long distance, yeah,
Yeah.
it can.
Okay. Quick recap. So we were talking about
And if, I'm sorry, can you please speak into the mic?
out of practice. We'll get this. Okay. Quick recap. Transformer is in this location. You can see here we've pushed the building back to meet all the required clearances and not much more. The fence goes from here, kind of at the entry side. It turns the corner, addresses the whole street, which is operable for Edison, and then turns the corner here. So that's how we're screening the transformer. The bike parking, the short-term bike parking got moved next to this planter along the wall here, right off the sidewalk, so kind of easy access to both commercial and public right-of-way for that. The bioretention was previously here. Now it exists here in the side yard, and we'll show you that in elevation. It's a tall bioretention that's accessible from our property, so a drop-down ladder from above here. And then otherwise, everything left, the rest of the parking is as it was before. So let's go to the next floor up. We'll track those changes going upward. Oh, gotta zoom. You could probably just do the mouse. Okay. Okay, so moving up from that southeast corner, so Unit 201 we're looking at, so we had to redesign a little bit. So that front facade pulling back away from the setback, you can see in front of us a couple feet that's the 5-foot AUD setback, that dashed line right there. So the massing really hasn't changed except moving backward. Previously, the west portion of Unit 201, that living area, was outdoor porch with 2 openings. We still have a glazed opening towards the street, so maintained basically the same, a little different proportion, and then facing the west property line, we dropped that opening to that patio. So just reduced a little bit, otherwise the layout is the same. No other changes well, let's scoot down to the townhomes. Did the stairs show here? Not yet. Okay, no other changes moving back. Do you want to speak to that? leasing and maintenance and storage. So that was a comment that came up last time. So there's a couple of these where the board asked for us to reduce programmatically any things that may not be required. So little powwow with the ownership team, and they say they absolutely need leasing at the front end of the project is pretty valuable to them. And then long-term, after it, same space converts to maintenance and storage combo. So that's just something they were interested in digging their feet into. It's just something that they want for the life of this project to operate it in a more efficient way. I think no other changes moving back on this level. So moving up, let's start in the southeast corner. So unit 301, that stack, so obviously, again, it all just slid back. We had to reconfigure that unit a little bit. It's a smaller unit, which kind of brought some of our unit sizes average down. So slight reconfiguration, but nothing drastically different. And then as we move, let's move left. Let's go back towards the project. So one of the other, I'd say, bigger comments we saw from the board last was the stair towers. And so we did go back and study, despite being a little fussier, we have created open air stairs. So we actually reduced the dog houses and kind of opened and sliced through the buildings. And so now on this level, so on this, oh, that's interesting, this is 317. So on this level, you can now see Ed show a typical door to the stair. So from the great room, you actually open a door, step out to a landing. So from that stair, you actually then look out. It's a unconditioned space, looks out into the paseo, and then you go up the stairs and you're outboard. We studied combining stairs throughout, but we prefer to maintain the demising wall, and both are just sort of mirrored on the way up. So that'll be a big change all the way up. And so those three units are the same. Unit 213 is basically the same, slightly different, rotated 90 degrees, but same idea. So we've kind of carved away that massing. So not only does it take away the roof tower, it actually kind of reduces massing on the third level as well. And then likewise, unit 312 in the back, we did the same thing. No changes up on this side. So let's go up to the fourth floor. Oh, that's unsettling. And then,
Sorry to interrupt, but it's helpful if you start with the full sheet view and then zoom in, because it's hard for us to follow sometimes.
okay. So here we'll take you on here's the fourth floor plan. So you can see the units are on that top left corner. The rest is really roof plans, which we'll take you through. So let's start again with the row of townhomes. So again, now let's zoom in a little bit so you can see two things happen on these roof decks. So you can see the white stairs are now open to the sky and reduced of all mass. And then likewise, the west edge of all of these roof decks were pulled back 4 feet. So on the west edge there, all of that, so we pulled that back. Introduced a rail there right at the stair as soon as we could. And what that allowed us to do is all those parapet wall edges all came down, somewhere between 2 and I think 20 and 24 inches. So previously we were kind of playing with heights. One of the board comments was to bring that down as much as possible. So up here we reduced the stair tower and reduced the parapet height, much more similar to the previously approved project. Then at the back, the private rooftop of 302, we cut in half. So previously they had that entire structure as roof deck. So we pulled off that west side for another location of solar, and just again, you see that open stair to a much smaller roof deck. Now let's move upward to unit 410. So one of the other comments was sort of this back duplex of units. We reintroduced 2 setbacks to this 4th floor. So obviously the larger one on the northwest corner, just pulled that back without changing too many things. And then likewise, unit 409, we reduced the living room to create a little movement and setback from there, which we'll see in elevation. Let's see, as we move to the right, that block has changed, remained the same. And once again, flex was something the ownership team felt strongly about, so we've maintained that area. It was previously, the deck space was reduced, so we've maintained that. Let's go to the next sheet. Just wanna make sure I didn't miss any. Okay. In elevation, so we're looking at the east elevation here, so you can see the two main changes on the right side. So I'll point to let's point to the lower one there. So there's that northeast corner where we've introduced the two additional setbacks. So you see, as you move towards the back of the property, it drops down to a much smaller mass in form, and then there's that second setback, creating just a little more in and out. We didn't point that out in plan, so then one of the other comments was about showing rooftop equipment and potential screening. And so we're still employing equipment in the garage, and we'll use mechanical ventilation. So we had to introduce that shaft, which is really inboard. You see it there. So that's what that represents. So we've accommodated that location for mechanical ventilation. So we move forward. The little faux chimney elements, we kind of tested back and forth. A couple members of the board thought there was too many, and I believe some didn't. So we kind of looked at, we reduced a couple here and there, but for the most part, we still like that element. We don't have enough height to, in that fourth floor, to move parapets up and down, so it still is really helping us terminate some of those parapets to the adjacent units in a successful way. Additionally, we added all the faux openings that previously didn't make the model, with one exception I need to own. So right there, that shadow line, we look to introduce and we can't, but I failed to edit that rendering. So just please note, the bottom is what we are proposing, and can't really break that with any depth. Okay, let's go to the next sheet. So we'll start at let's go to the front. We go to the top one, I think, the rendered one. We can start there, then move. So here the changes are, so you can see really very little to the front elevation. The two-story mass on the left is what is pushed back. You see a hint. You see that the transformer screening on the first floor. Then the second floor unit has the enclosed window now, the two windows on the second floor. Then the third floor trellised area is the same, just pushed back. The stair I missed in plan, but we actually massaged that. We widened that staircase up by just over a foot, just to make it a little more comfortable. So that's the proposed changes here. And then in the rear, you're just getting on that east elevation at the top, you get some of those additional setbacks. And then of course, the stair towers are no longer there. So those are the big changes there, as reflected in those elevations.
If we could just spend some time on the hard line, like
Sure.
drawings as well.
Yep. So let's zoom in. Okay, so we can kind of move over those pieces. So then, as the notes say, there's the screen transformer. That is we're proposing a 5-foot tall horizontal fence that's meant to mimic the poured-in-place concrete texture throughout the project. So which resembles sort of its backdrop is the storefront. So what you'll see is, a reduced storefront entry right at that stair where the stair comes down. But then we have introduced a transom, and if you can kind of, to add additional light there, just to increase light pulling back into that unit. Parking, so the middle section remains the same. We have the large garage opening and man gate. All of that looks a little busy, but that's pushed well back into that opening, I think 20 plus feet. And then the little storefront on the right. Very subtle changes. We actually were able to reduce that bioplanter in width by a little bit and increase the entry storefront component a little bit. I think maybe like 6 inches, but I think that was a good move. And then there's that bike location as well. That covered adequately. And then here's the rear elevation. And again, there's our the 2 units reflecting the little faux chimney elements, and then there's those setbacks there. Max height. Let's go to the next sheet. Mr. Chair, should we just do the hardline elevation? Is that fine? Okay, so starting at Haley on the right. So again, there's that new screen wall, that 5-foot fence screen wall that then kind of dies into the poured-in-place concrete. That one second-story stucco portion facing Haley has reduced. That got tucked a little smaller. Otherwise, a very similar facade. Moving north down the elevation. So here's a look at, let's just pan so we can look at all those facades. There we go, this whole section, keep going. So here's our townhome row. And so again, you can see we're still trying to step the parapets lowest on the outsides, building up, and then coming back down, kind of creating some sinuating rhythm. So obviously you see the rails beyond in a couple of the lowest. There you go, that one, and over to the right. That's not proud. That's pushed that 4 feet back. That's consistent with all of them. You just, in true elevation, you happen to see them on these. Down, what you'll see in the Sims is you don't notice that at kind of a right-of-way or a ground view. But that's how we're accommodating. Love to hear from the board. If we had more height, I'd want a little more range of height if that was acceptable, but that's kind of where we landed for the board. And again, the stair towers go away. One change I'd like to propose now is then the main elevator tower. We went back and forth with that faux chimney, and since we submitted, we'd like to propose to remove that. So make that a condition. Didn't make this submittal, but we'd like to make that change. Let's move towards the back, and same changes, right? So no more tower, and that's the existing elevation from before. Let's keep going. Sections, no real change there. Enlargement. Always, there's an enlarged area. Yep, the transformer. Same details as before. Previously, what was important in this is these were the approved details. All the base openings are still the same in terms of fenestration. So our minimum, can you zoom in the bottom 2? The minimum depth to glazing on the right is 6 inches to the glass, and that's our minimum wall. Any of the larger openings are it's about 10.5 inches deep. So that was important to this project. We've maintained all of that. And then this shows start at the top right. So a few 3D views. So this gives you an idea. Zoom in a little bit more. So there's at the bottom, you can see the massing on the 4th floor, kind of how that steps back to a smaller piece. And then here we get the peak inside the Paseo. There's that outboard stair. So starting, that unit there kind of gives you a good idea. We haven't refined all these. We obviously have a lot of work to do on the inside Paseo elevations, but it kind of gives you an idea of how that stepped in. I actually think that's going to be quite charming there. And then the next one, you can see that little Juliet balcony represents where you step out from your unit stair and then work up. So we looked at it carved completely away, but we kind of felt like this was a little simpler and liked that little moment for that person stepping out. Kind of made a little interesting moment on the way up and down. And then lastly, we did leave that one stair tower. So that was the one that we kind of worked on, but couldn't get it to work very well. And we decided it was sitting behind all the rest of the Haley Street volumes that we thought was okay to leave and would be hidden from the public. So let's see. A few other views of the same thing. Yep, and there's that back unit with that same move. Here's the view. This kind of helps describe, zoom in a little bit there, Ed. That kind of helps describe how those rails step back.
The old laptop's not liking it.
If this
I
is
think
a
we're almost-
problem, we can pull it up on
And
our
we're almost,
computer here.
I think we're almost.
And I do have the view sims pulled up too, so maybe
That's
while
what-
we're going,
Why don't we jump to those?
okay, can we swap to,
Why don't you take us through these?
and just make sure these are the right ones as well. Okay, cool. So, I think I could blow them up a little bit.
You can scroll through them as well, that's fine.
Okay.
So I'll just walk you through them. So the first is the wireframe over the story poles from the PDA project approval. Next is the rendering of the PDA approval. Next is what you saw last time. Thank you. So this is what you saw last time, and then next is how we've modified. Yeah, if there's any way to keep the zoom the same and toggle between 4 and 5, that would be ideal.
No, we can walk through it.
So just clicking back and forth, this is what we're proposing today. So really what you can see is on the right-hand side, that northeast corner. Next slide, and how the massing has been revised, and as well as a color introduction there. You also start to see on the left-hand side how the transformer, adding the transformer pulled back the massing along Haley Street. Okay, next, we'll move to the location on Santa Barbara Street. So the story poles, there's the wireframe of the PDA approval. Next is the render of the PDA approval. Next, what you saw last presentation in March. And finally, where the project design is right now. So if you could go back and forth there, you can see as you toggle the stair towers as they've been eliminated, and also the parapet adjustments as well. And you can't even really see the railings on those roofs with the way from this angle. And then to the right-hand side, as you toggle, you can see the transformer and how the project massing pushed back from Haley. So staff, we could probably turn back if we can, the last piece of the presentation is really just the landscaping changes. If we could pull up this set, it's really just one sheet to look at. The changes were minimal, it'll probably be fine. I think the page is probably like page 8, be a guess. Go forward about 2 pages. One more. One more. That's demolition, and there we go. Hand it to Kim.
Okay. So down in the front along Haley where the transformer is, I added a planter so that we have a little relief in front of that section, in front of the storefront. And we can get a vine and soften that.
Use the pointer, please.
Do you want It's unfortunate because I'm the one that's managing the plan, so maybe I could give
A stick?
I could give you, maybe give me some verbal cues and we can, you know what? Oh, Mr. Chair, to the rest of the board, I'm actually going to give applicants the control again, so.
And, yeah, I think that's going to be best because it's televised. So I know for the board's benefit, it's fine to go up there, but
Okay.
for the public's benefit, we need to
And
use the mouse.
I'll just have to steal it back from you eventually.
Yes, so we added the planter there. And some accent plants and some more succulents and vine in that area to help
zoom in on
soften
that?
the fence at that entry to the storefront below. And then back to the biofiltration planter, because we have a 60-inch depth there, we're able to add some vertical elements, bring some palm trees and some of the larger dracaenas in there. And
Sorry to interrupt, but before we move on, it looks like there's some inconsistencies there. Where is the face of the building, storefront, et cetera? Looks like you were seeing an overhang as well.
we are, because I have sort of stacked the second story and the first together. So we have the dashed outline, that's the patio above, and then we have the face of the ground floor, right there where the hand is. And then the cantilever above, so that planter tucks below towards the glass.
Got it.
And then, since to take advantage of where the transformer had been, we have that large planter now. I was able to bring in some more vertical elements and some more palms. And so we continue the planting that we had at ground level along that whole elevation. We're able to carry that through into the bioretention planter. And that's the extent of the changes to the landscape. Everything else is the same as you saw before.
Okay, great. Anything else to add before we move on?
No, Mr. Chair, that can conclude our presentation.
Great, thank you. So we are going to move on to public comment. I have one request to speak, and if there's anyone else that would like to address the board, we can move on to Mr. Hunter, if you'd like to approach the microphone over there. And you have 2 minutes to speak.
Just one of the things that I didn't necessarily see in the plans on the east side is the massing on the piece that was forward. My property is 221, right next door, just to the east. And are those faux windows in there? And that's what I'm concerned with, is that element is quite void of any openings or any fenestration. So if we could look at that, and but everything else is pretty much the same, and is acceptable to me. So I would support that. All right.
Okay, thank you. All right, did we receive any written correspondence?
No, Mr. Chair, we did not receive any other public comment on this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we can close public comment. And let's go to questions from the board. Who would like to start? Mr. Olson.
Yes, thank you. Public access to the transformer area, is there access to that?
Board Member Olson, certainly, let me walk you through it here. Just got to zoom in a little tighter. So there's two ways to get to the transformer. So for transformer maintenance and its requirements, we have this double 4-foot gate, so a total of 8 feet. And then otherwise, the fence stops about 3 feet back. And so this is open here to the rear of the transformer.
There is landscape.
With the landscape strip, correct.
That show on your plan? Landscape?
Yeah.
Drop-down ladder, where is that?
The drop-down ladder would be somewhere along this line here from up above. We haven't placed it yet. We wanted to get these broader moves to the board. We're looking at the second floor so we can see where that relates. So we have this circulation area here, and just near the trash chutes, we can get the ladder up and over one of these edges here, down to below.
It looks like that won't affect the elevation. Won't be seeable?
It's tucked pretty far back, certainly from the street as the building's in the way, but possibly from the driveway, and we're not sure of future development on the parcel next door. Board Member Olson.
Thank you. And then could we focus on that stairway and how that works at the top of the stairway? The front elevation stairway?
So the main stair, starting down, we have. So the main entry stair is really in two segments. You go up from the street to the landing. It's a quite sizable landing, and we did that. So that's the gate there. So the lockable gate. It'll have a call button and the addressing there. So guests would come up off the street, have a moment there to buzz in or alert people that they're there, get buzzed in, and then walk the rest of the way up. So that's why you can see the blue clearance boxes on either side of the gate, security gate. So that what drove the landing. And then we go up the last few steps and arrive at the upper courtyard.
And is there an elevation of that gate? Of that iron?
No,
entry?
we have a very simple model that represents a gate, but the gate has not been designed yet.
Okay. That's all my questions for the moment.
Okay. Any questions?
You may have answered it. Can we go back to what's the screening of the transformer? I heard a fence, so it's just a horizontal board fence?
Yeah, horizontal. We'll go to the elevation. What we're proposing is horizontal, probably cementitious board.
Okay.
Weathered gray or that color to mimic. The idea is to mimic both scale and color of the poured-in-place concrete.
Okay.
And it'll be, again, don't have it detailed quite yet, but it'll be on a steel frame.
Okay. And then if we could go to the roof plan, the parapets that we had talked about last time getting reduced.
Mm-hmm.
As well as on that, I guess it's the west side. We talked about those patios getting reduced as well as the parapets. So I guess that's two questions. Are those patios smaller from last time, or?
They are. So we reduced, the one at 312 is cut in half, but then this row is reduced by 4 feet times, what's the width of that unit? 25 feet or more. So
that edge was pulled back to the.
Yeah, it was
to where the
previously
hatch-
at the parapet. We
Yeah.
pushed it as far back, and again, it was really driven by, you see in units 214, 215, 216, by the stair location
Yep.
and where it turns up. So
Got it. So then that outside parapet, the one on the building edge, is that reduced in height?
Yes, so if we want to show it in sections, so there's a range, maybe we can look, I don't know, we can look at the 317. Where is that?
That didn't do what I wanted.
So there you see we're allowing for, that's about 36 inches there, which we have some wiggle room. So what we looked at, obviously we wanted 12 to 18 inches just for constructability and flashing. And then now, so we did a study where anything less than that, you actually start seeing, from perspective, you start seeing the rail beyond. So this kind of ensured it. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of, we could pull down if that was desirable, based on the facade proportions, but, so that's sort of the balancing act, because you can see then there's the 42-inch rail to the right.
Okay. Those are my questions for now.
Okay. Mr. Black, any questions?
Sure. I'm still a little troubled by the transformer. Not so much the location, but it's pretty sterile around. I mean, you've got the fence, but there's really no softness, no greenery outside of the one side that you talked about. But there's no way we could pull the fence back a couple feet, so you have a little bit of. Well, you've got those two 4-foot gates. They have to be that big.
So you need the 8-foot
Yes.
clearance to the front, which is on the sidewalk. Yeah,
It's really sort of unfortunate, but
yeah.
you do have a street tree, I noticed,
Mhm.
sort of in front of it. but-
Yes, that, yep. And a couple plants in the parkway.
Yeah.
I'm wondering there perhaps could be room on the west property line. So we have the ability, again, there's not a lot of room, but there could be
A
enough
vine
there.
on the fence, maybe, at least in the areas where you don't have the gates, perhaps? I mean, just
Mhm.
something that sort of soften it, because you basically just got sidewalk and fence, right?
Mhm.
And that's a lot of frontage, frankly, of
Mhm.
just fence. Which is,
Mhm.
20%.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a street tree there, fortunately, but still. Well, look for an, yeah.
Mhm.
My question is, can you look for an opportunity, I guess, but.
Chair Moore to the rest of the board as well. Just make sure you're speaking into the mic as well.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
It's yours too. Can we maybe donate that last mic over there to? There we go.
Thank you.
I guess my only other, okay, so you guys will look at that, I guess, but my other question is, do you think palms on the east and west property line boundaries where you're showing, I'm very cognizant of the mass that this building presents, and I'm wondering whether more of a vertical, my question is whether more of a vertical species of tree with a little bit more head on it versus palms, which ultimately are just gonna be, well, you know what palms do. If there's just some way that you can soften it, because, and then ultimately, you're gonna have another, as you know, a project on this side, so the more verticality and massing we can get. I just don't think, I'm not sure that palms can do that unless you plant them a really tight grove or something, so you get a lot of massing on them, but anyway, it's just a thought.
Yeah, the palms are what we've had from day one coming on that side, just because it's so tight and we've got, there's not a lot of room. So I have tried to group them so that we've got the king palms in there, so we get more head and fluff, if you will.
See, you've got stenocarpus perhaps in the street tree, so maybe that's an
Correct.
opportunity.
We can study that, certainly.
Study it, that's all I'm asking.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else?
No other questions, thanks.
Vice Chair Six.
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore. On the study, you said you studied the stair tower at Unit 317, I think it is? And you found, what were the difficulties of making that an open stair instead of the successful solutions to the others?
Well, here's the fourth floor view. We'll work our way down, so I might want to start on the bottom. So it was a slightly different configuration, particularly up here. So the shared roof deck area. So one is, you can see we have planter, and then this stair tower created a buffer between the two. I know that was one of the reasons on this, at least this level, for privacy. And there's, if this is the common area, so.
Oh, I see. You're
So
using
this is open to the public, well, not the public, sorry, to all of the residences of the project get to share this space. So it's a more public zone for the project. And then as we move down, so that was one reason.
Apologies, down is up.
Mm.
All
Mhm.
right, here we go.
And then you can see how,
We're still shaking the bugs out, as you can see.
and then you can see this is a double back stair. So it just carved a much larger portion. And quite honestly, I'm trying to remember all the consequences of that. We pulled
I
it
get it.
apart and it was too big of a bite into that building. I don't know, let's go to the level below.
That's all right. I think
I think
I
we
can
felt
see
it
it.
exposed too much. Oh, that's right. If you go the level below. So you can see it's all over livable area.
I
And
get
so
it.
we were just, it felt a little too exposed as opposed to the others was opening up mostly over the stair area below. So we felt a little more comfortable. So
All
it's
right.
just a different unit type and it felt fussier.
Great. I still I resonate with Member Black in regards to softening the front. Can we go to the, especially the landscape plan on that, or whatever graphic you don't have to jump to? That's good. So if I understand, there's the transformer in dark line, and then the dotted line around it is the clearance space. And what is the three extra feet between the dotted line and the fence? Is that, I'm sure you've squeezed it out, but I just, for my own understanding, why is the fence not right smack up against the dotted line?
Sure, Board Member 6, I can cover that. So the transformer sits on a pad, a concrete pad.
That's the pad.
And that's the pad that it sits on here. And this is it's an oversized pad for potential future larger transformer, whether we connect to other properties in adjacent neighbors, or we've been doing calcs right at a threshold 2 with the number of car chargers we might add. So the larger pad takes into account future expansion as well. And then the required clearances are the
Okay.
additional dash line around the pad.
And just for curiosity reasons, your architectural shows that the fence returning on the upsheet side of that is only 4 feet, where at least it might be a graphic error on the landscapers, but the landscaper has the landscaping going all the way back. So can the fence go all the way back, or why can you have it one way, you can have landscaping but not fence?
That, you're right, that's an inconsistency. We had it just turning the corner of the 4 feet. Kim, you were showing it all the way back.
I went all the way back,
So-
and I thought that we had it coordinated with your, yeah.
So the architecture plan is correct?
That's the proposed. I think it's flexible. That's what we've done in the past to just create a little more openness against the wall. So we're open to feedback. If you prefer one way or the other, I think that's acceptable to us.
I think as one of the last projects on consent, you can even have a low ground cover in the working area. So maybe that's the solution. The other question is, was there any thought of splitting the baby and putting some kind of planting along the downsheet property line?
No, quite honestly, we opted to push as much. We didn't have a lot to work with, so we only talked about adding it to the kind of the more trafficked entry side. But again, I think we're open if we think we can split it. We don't have more space to give, but if split that planter space.
Well, just a thought, especially if the planter can only go 4 feet deep into the property line, then you can maybe move the planter and the whole kit and caboodle up and not block that entry. Anyway, and then, can we go to the front elevation? I think this is old business, and it's probably previously designed, previously approved, but the front center elevation, the lintel at the garage, did that not used to be your concrete textured? And I just wondered if you're happy with, what, then the
Yeah,
question
that's-
arises, what is that
That is the
line?
concrete material. It's not called out there, but that's intended to be the concrete material.
Oh, so it should be striped and gray? Oh, okay, yeah, that's, and is there any way to, this is still a question, to widen that column at the plan side, left-hand side?
The only way to do that is to grow it back into the stair. We'd have to reduce that whole staircase all the way up, which we've been working very hard to open up.
Yeah,
We were
but
pitched before.
but in final, when you correct the drawing, that will be your, a board and bat, your formed concrete too?
Yes.
Okay, that will help, okay. I think those are my questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, I only have one follow-up question. Can we go to the east elevation? No, I'm sorry, west. And then can we zoom in towards that front unit 201? I was just wondering if you had studied any trellis or awning over their outdoor area. Yeah, right there.
No, we didn't. So in plan, I don't know if we want to go there on that second floor. That's the bedroom on the left, bathroom in between, pretty minimal openings. So we just, again, a project like this, as you guys know, we kind of looked for, there was a previous round where we had trellises along that whole elevation that were pulled off. So even for all those outdoor patio spaces, so we didn't think of then reintroducing one in that location, again, on that property line.
Okay. And then in regards to the parapet faux chimney details that you still have, did you study any alternate cap detail to give it? Okay. Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. My questions are, since we're here, so Unit 201, remind me, so this open space that's now kind of landlocked, for a better word, where was that before? Was that in that same location?
Yes, but it was a little longer. So, the living room space was pulled towards Haley, so it was the same.
Okay.
I mean, well, a little longer, but still landlocked before. But what was in front of it was an enclosed outdoor patio space.
Right, so it kind
that's
of
what's different.
connected a little bit, sort of outdoor space-wise?
In plan, I mean, not visually, but maybe that's why it's perceived that way. But so basically, it's in the same location. And then, I'm sorry, I misspoke. That is a bedroom in Unit 201. It was previously a bathroom, but because of our proximity, we limited the size of that opening for that facade to go that 20% of that one plane.
And then if we go up one floor, what happens? Okay. Can you, if we can look at both of the, I guess, east and west elevations, if we can talk about some of the faux openings and describe those in more detail, in particular on the, I guess, the east elevation, since there's a lot, it seems like there's more mass along the property line.
Do we have one of those details? can't remember if we actually have it detailed. We might have, I know we had one detailed before.
So for instance, if you can just maybe start at the Haley frontage and work your way back, what are we looking at sort of in and out? Why,
So really the basic faux opening is what is proposed is on those block walls, essentially, those property line walls, it could be reduced, right? So it could be cut or less block or framed in. So typically from that 6 or 8 inch block, we're able to produce maybe a 2-foot difference in depth. 2 inch. What did I say? Foot. 2 inch difference, delta, thank you. No, that's fine, that's fine. That's fine. So it's set in, and then finish in the same way. What we're proposing is just, again, stucco being returned and finished. So no other material change. Here, it was just sort of a subtle shadow line that kind of inferred that perhaps it was a previous window at some point. And that's really what's represented in all of the faux openings you see on the stucco walls.
And then at the base where we have the horizontal striping, is that going to actually be poured in place concrete, or is that a stucco pad?
That's proposed as board formed concrete.
Okay, and what is the setback there on average for those?
Let's just go to the plan. I don't want to get that wrong. So we have a few call outs there. So we're showing the adjacent cottages. So there's that 3, 1.5 there, which is about 7.5 off. And then do we have a dimension for that setback? Is it the same? I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Similar, and we got 6 feet away from that other cottage.
Okay, then anything further back?
No, then those are the existing kind of warehouse type structures.
Okay.
We have this there.
Is there anything on this section of the elevation, if we could flip to that?
No, because it's, right now, the neighbor is a pretty near 0 lot line condition. We didn't propose any additional openings or faux openings.
Okay, thank you. And then, so you chose not to reduce the sort of flex space, which is on the 4th floor. So if that's an absolute necessary thing to have, is there a way to, take advantage of the climate and convert that to be essentially an outdoor space with a kitchenette that's covered and openable? Some way to reduce that mass in that area.
Chair Moore, we'd have to take that back to the ownership team. This one portion of massing has been consistent through the life of the project. So again, that's why we kind of felt comfortable, and it's kind of in the middle. So we haven't, so no to that. The ownership team felt it very valuable to them, so we'd have to take that back. I can't really answer for that at this time.
Okay. Those are my questions. Anybody have follow-up questions?
Chair Moore?
Yes.
On a follow-up on the faux windows, thinking in the future that the project to the east or even west could be redesigned and, raised entirely and something. Could you physically provide more of these faux windows, especially along the right-hand side of this particular elevation we're looking at?
Certainly. I mean,
Physically, you could do that, yeah. Even though the existing structures are now there, they might be raised someday and and those blank walls benefit from
Yeah.
faux windows.
I mean, certainly could be designed. You're talking constructability. If a building went away, could one be introduced? I suppose so.
No, I mean now.
Oh. Yeah.
Like if you slide your image over, just,
I'm not sure we could build it in stucco.
that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Is it physically?
Well, like back here,
Impossible.
so where Ed's circling now, I mean, that's inches, right? It's very tight.
Okay,
Um,
so it would be
But I do know, like, on the left there, Ed, if you move your cursor to the left, like there, where there's a few feet, we're 3 foot setback there, I think. We can go check. So towards the back of the property, I would say no at this time. In the middle, that's a possibility.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else?
A follow-up
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
Are the solar system allocated for the whole project or just for those units that they're on top of? And the rest of that question will be easier for you to answer, is that if it's going to be shared by the whole project, will that have an impact on the elevations as you transport that energy around?
So, Board Member Olson, we're anticipating we're anticipating actually providing more than code required car charging. And so that the solar would go first to offset, and hot water, it would be electric as well. So the first would be to offset those common loads or those house loads with EV charging and hot water as well. I don't think there's enough solar to actually leave anything left for specific units. But if so, it would be done internally in the walls, or we use our bottom of our podium through conduit to get the wires where they need to go.
Thank you. I'm ready for comments.
Okay, then lead us off.
There's a couple of places. As you know, I'm a downtown liver, and we face the problem of the transients each morning. And there are various ways to find ways to protect themselves from the night and the weather. So there's a couple of places here that seem to me likely places that they might use. The project at the end of Chapala faced that, and now that's been 10 or 15 years ago. They had to erect gates and fences that I'm sure weren't anticipated in the beginning and still aren't very attractive. So I think some thought should make sure you give some thought to how you're trying to address that problem, because it's real. What's the size of the lot? Is it a 50-foot lot?
I think we're 90 feet thereabouts. I can jump. $90 feet.
Uh-huh.
Good memory.
And so the transformer looks to me to be 12 or 15 feet from side to side. So it's a percentage of that space that you have to present to the street, and a significant one. And I'm asking if, and I'm sure you've looked at this over and over again, because several times ago you thought you had the problem solved, and that didn't work out. It just seems so omnipresent to that elevation, and I have no suggestion how you might address it, but I'd like to at least make that mention. in many ways, this is a seminal project that we're going to see these kinds of sizes of project emerging more and more, and we've talked about it here before when you were here. The impact on the neighborhood is huge because this is a very large building, and but I think it's what we're going to see many times. And so in many ways, what you've done to present this building in an attractive architectural way is commendable. You've gone to great lengths, I think, to try to make this building not be so ominous to the neighborhood. And the fact that the neighbors aren't here and complaining about it, I think speaks to how you've addressed that problem with them. And so I think that's also commendable. That's all my comments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Noon?
Thank you. Yeah, I would reiterate what Board Member Olson has said. I do support the direction of the project and appreciate your attempt at addressing our comments the way you have. I would also reiterate the transformer screening. I mean, maybe that fence goes away and it's maybe it's some sort of maximize the vegetative screening. Maybe it gets pushed around. I mean, I think it's unfortunate to have that that feature at the sidewalk. I think it would be much more appropriate or pleasant to have it screened or have more landscaping in that area and not have the wooden fence or the cementitious fence. I also, I apologize, I didn't catch maybe you were mentioning how much you were lowering those parapets now, or commenting on the roof. But you did push the railings back, push the parapets back, lowered the ones at the edge. You know, I'd like to see them maybe reduced more, but that's deeper in the site. I would maybe defer to the board as a whole on that one, but no, I do appreciate you guys addressing the comments so far. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Black?
Yeah, I agree with those comments, and in particular, I mean, it did cross my mind, well, what if we didn't have the fence? What are the opportunities to create some sort of green massing that almost does the same job and visually would be a lot more appealing? Yeah, so something to look at for sure. And then I go back to my earlier comment about just, and I realize that, you know, you've had this landscape plan since the beginning, but I think any opportunity for vertical massing particularly on the east and west property lines, just to break up the mass and the linear, or the length of the building as it's viewed from east and west, I think. So, you know, whether the Palms do that job or not, but I mean, it's just something to look at and see if you're putting your best foot forward as far as that goes. So that's all. That was my only comment. Thank you.
Yeah. Vice Chair Six?
And Chair Moore, yeah, I think the bigger issue here is this in conformance, substantial conformance with the our initial PDA, and I'm very comfortable that it is with the removal of the wells, the 4-story wells for the rooftop stairs. So I'm very comfortable that it is in substantial conformance. I too support another relook and jiggling of the transformer area, and I do like the modulated elevator tower parapet, and appreciate all the work you've done.
So to confirm, when you say the modulated elevator,
They ask a question on the elevator tower.
flipping the detail.
No, to eliminate the detail.
Eliminate.
And I think it provides interest and is in the thematic consistency with the rest of the building.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson?
All right, I actually would prefer all of the faux chimneys to go away and study an alternate chimney or a cap on the parapets. I don't know, I find them kind of strange. But otherwise, I feel like you've answered all of the comments from last time, except for number 3 on the flex space. And I agree with the board on looking at softening the transformer, like they've all discussed. And yeah, I appreciate the removal of the stair towers, and I think it's going in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. My own comments are, I think it's pretty much in conformance with what we saw before. My own comments have been consistent throughout this project, where I feel that any space that's, not an apartment or a unit related is not a necessity. I think anything that can be done to reduce the massing to not just the street frontage, but to your neighbors, in particular this, neighbor to the east, would be beneficial. It's just going to be better for them. They're going to have more light, less shadow, etc. And there's, again, this is an urban location. There's no reason that you need to have additional flex space. These projects are meant, and this is more of a planning comment, policy comment, which, is general. In my opinion, the addition of that type of square footage adds cost to the project, which is counter to the intent of the AUD ordinance, where we're trying to get more smaller units that are affordable in the downtown area. So I'm sticking to my guns on that comment. I think there's a way to reduce that and still have that amenity, but not have it be an enclosed space. So perhaps it could be more of a roof deck type space. So. Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion?
Chair Moore, I resonate with your common space concern. Should we do a vote on that to see if we gather support and they have to handle it differently? Well, back up. Unfortunately, it was approved on the previous, so I don't think that we're going to go there. So
Well,
I would
I have a
make.
question.
Let's correct.
Go ahead.
Let's ask staff that question. This is coming here for a revised project design approval. So that means
It's new, right?
what exactly?
I would like to defer to the case planner, but she's not here. I don't know what that would mean if you didn't meet if these plans didn't substantially conform to the project design approval. I feel like you would open it all the way back up to go back through the process again.
That's correct. So the plans that are before you today you would need to be able to say they substantially conform to the project design approval that was received in January of 2020. And if you can't make that statement as a board, then it means that, again, this is a revised project design approval. So it still leaves you in a tough spot, and based on what I'm hearing.
I have a question. Last time they came before us, we were told that it didn't need to be substantially conforming because they are applying new AUD rules. So I feel like we're getting conflicting information.
Mr. Chair, the other consideration is to try to take a 5-minute break, and let me see if I can get the case planner just to check in, just so we make sure that we give you the correct information.
Yeah, absolutely. We want the applicant to be adequately served and we want all the information in front of us. So let's adjourn for 5 minutes.
And just,
Working on it. Okay, we're going to reconvene our meeting. We have a case planner here with us.
Good afternoon. I was watching upstairs. My understanding is that the reason they revised their project is because the rules for the average unit density program changed. So they were wanting to take advantage of the extra height, which is allowed. However, they are asking for a revised PDA. Their original revised PDA is still valid. So if you don't find that you guys like this design, that the board doesn't like this design, then you can continue to ask them to work on it if you can't get there.
And if I could just, so it has really nothing to do with substantial conformance. It's really that the 2020, January 2020 PDA stands, they're asking for a fresh look. Think of it almost as like a new PDA conceptually. And so that's what they're requesting. And so you'd have to make the findings. And if you can't make the findings, then the applicant, again, has the old PDA to fall back on if, should they wish, or they could continue if, to pursue if you are unable to make the findings as a board.
Great. Great. Thank you for that explanation. Does that answer your question, Ms. Anderson? Great. All right, well, let's have a little discussion. If we need to do a straw poll to get to a consensus, we can do that. Vice Chair Six, you were considering
Well,
something.
in light of, you know, now that I think about it, their change from their previous PDA is a consistent 3 feet of height throughout. So it would seem to me as a bargaining chip, in order for us to allow, to say that it is, I think we have power to keep them at less, at the 45 instead of, are we powerless to keep them, to not allow them to go up to 48 because of the housing, the ordinance and so forth?
I guess we would think of it, Chair Moore and Commissioners, that it, let's say it came in today with this height and it's allowed. What would you as a board have said, no, we don't like the height because it's too tall? Or if it complies with the zoning ordinance, which it does now because the AUD
That makes
laws
sense.
change.
Okay.
And also, I think sometimes the height in the floor plates can add to livability in some ways, instead of crunching, you know, the lower income. The goal is to have more affordable units, and sometimes when we try to keep the height down, then that can take away a little bit from the livability of the unit when the floor heights are a little bit.
Okay, well, then I think that maybe, Chair Moore, that if you want to canvass the board to see if there's more support for your issue, then do so.
Well, just to clarify, my issue is not the general height of the building. It's in those areas where, in my opinion, the mass is not necessary for the residential use. So it's really a fairly small portion of the project, relatively.
Would you want to take a straw vote to see if others?
Talk into the mic, please.
Would you want to do a straw vote on if there are others that support you in your particular elimination of that one?
Sure.
Yes?
Sure, let's see, I guess the clearest way to do it would be how many members feel the fourth floor flex space should remain as presented. So we've got one.
Two.
Well,
Two?
under discussion again, I guess I don't have enough information, because if you are looking to modify that flex space, make it open, I'd kind of like to know what that looks like. Because otherwise, it's my imagination at this point, so, and I know obviously you've been thinking about it, but, you know, whether it's reflects itself in a rendering or, you know, so I can sort of see whether there's a visual advantage to doing what you're asking, I don't know, frankly.
Well, so to be clear, you know, if we're asking them to make a change like that, it would be a continuance. They would
Yes.
have to come back with revised elevations to reflect that.
So what do we, and the 3 to 3? Shazam.
Mike, please.
Well, yeah, if I could just add, I mean, I appreciate the comment of that there's flex within the area. I hadn't considered that before, so I see that, but it also, for me, borderlines on defining a program. And I hesitate, I guess, to do that. If the applicant wanted to come back with another option, I would certainly, would like to see it as well, but I don't know, I want to be able to vote on it in support, but not have that piece included. That flex has to go away. So I guess I would go back to I don't know, if you can maybe define it better, or do another straw vote that we can get a consensus on it.
I'm open to anyone else crafting a straw vote, if there's a better way to do it.
And can we just pull that mic a little closer again, too?
So the question would be, should the board, request that the applicant go back and find ways to reduce the mass of the flex space? Is that a different statement and more easily understood?
If I could, Chair Moore, is that flex space the same size as a unit? I mean, if it were a unit, would we be having this discussion?
No.
I don't think we could.
Exactly, that's the issue, that, we can't reduce numbers of units, we can't ask them to pull units out of the project.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So this looks slightly smaller, maybe 600 square feet or something like that.
Yeah. Visually, it's small.
Okay. And it's set back roughly 4 feet from the adjacent building face.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm willing to let it go. In the future, and I think we've been fairly consistent with other proposals that have come through, that we want to try and eliminate these types of spaces. So if there's a way to further reduce it, I think I would appreciate that. And even if there's a creative way to, for instance, where you're showing the pool table, if that becomes a roof deck or something similar to that. Okay.
Chair Moore and staff, could we still give them a revised PDA with the comment to seek further reduction? And have it come back for a study or for consideration of the next level of approval, or a in progress review?
Chair Moore and Commissioners, I believe you could do that. You could give them a revised PDA with further direction for like an in progress, or if they come back for final, when and if they come back for final, you could do more analysis on the project.
Well, if there's no change at final, then
Yeah, you usually can't change between PDA and final, right?
yeah.
So it might be a in progress.
Chair Moore, did we actually have a vote on that last reduction in the massing?
No,
Okay.
I didn't. Well, I think there's enough detail and exterior interest and materiality that it's probably a good idea for the applicant to do a in-progress review.
Probably come for in progress anyway, right? Okay. So let's include that in our motion.
But that's at their discretion, correct? We can't say, come back for an in-progress review?
I believe that is correct. I'm going to defer to my supervisor.
It would be okay with you.
So I guess I just want to, for the applicant's benefit, just want to make sure that, that there's no confusion in terms of what they're tasked with after they leave today. And so I guess I have a little more concern about granting PDA and then not really knowing what that flex space or the massing of that will be, and not having clear direction of whether it's, whether it's indoor or outdoor, how that might be expressed from a massing standpoint. So I guess I just want to put that out there is just having the applicant be caught between PDA and final approval with that. In terms of the other question about, remind me what the other question was about.
Transformer.
The transformer. No, wait,
No,
that
was
wasn't.
in-progress review.
The in-progress review. I guess it kind of goes back to my previous point of, well, we can't, it would really be most likely scheduled. It could be an in-progress based on the applicant's wishes, but generally we would just schedule it for final approval, and you just wouldn't grant it if you felt like it wasn't, you couldn't make the findings for final approval. But with the question, I know that the applicant most likely wants project design approval today, but I do have some concerns without having clear direction from the board and on what that massing of the corner might look like. So for what it's worth.
Okay, well, I mean, I've said I can, yeah. I mean, I've said I can go along with the majority of the board if the majority of the board feels that the flex space is acceptable as is, so.
Could I offer a suggestion that,
Please.
For instance, on the plan we see before us, you have an indent in the front door. Perhaps that indent is on the other side of that flex space and increases the setback and the width of your patio. Something to that minimal dimension there would, be something they could do. So let me craft a motion that.
I have a question first. Where are we with the transformer suggestions? Are we including those as?
Yes, we're going to deal with those, yeah. So I would make a motion what are we doing here? We're doing, I would make a motion for approval of revised project design approval and an indefinite continuance for final with the option to come back for in-progress review with the following items. Number one, that the applicant should study ways to rearrange.
Vice Chair Six, let's not use study at this point.
Oh, okay.
Let's give them clear direction.
Yeah, okay. So to provide softer more landscape areas either to each side or to the front of the transformer at the street. Is that enough said on that? To explore the option of reducing eliminating the fence, the hard fence material altogether, and go to a thick, opaque landscape screen for that transformer. Number two, it's to provide modest revisions to the flex space on the fourth floor in order to further reduce its impact to the exterior east elevation. That the parapet around the elevator tower with its modulated parapets is acceptable. And number one, the board appreciates all the movement and response to our previous comments.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that?
Second it. Could we have it read, please?
Okay. This is for PDA and for return to in-progress review. Provide softer and more landscape areas to each side or in front of the transformer at the street. Explore to eliminate the hard fence and provide an opaque fencing. Provide modest to reduce the impacts to the east elevation. The parapet around the elevator tower with the modulated flex space is acceptable as presented. And that was by Six and seconded by Olson.
I'm sorry, let's go back one by one. The first comment should be, we appreciate the response to our previous concerns and comments. Number two, can you read the verbiage you provided for the transformer?
To provide softer and more landscape areas to each side and front of the transformer at the street.
Yes, and then the sentence after that?
Okay. Explore to eliminate the hard fence and provide an opaque fence.
No.
Oh.
Just drop provide the opaque fence. And then would you reread the comment about the flex space on the fourth floor?
Provide a modest flex space. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. The parapet around the elevator tower with modulated flex space is acceptable as presented.
No, those are two different ideas. Number one, the modulated parapet at the stair tower is preferred. That's one. And then the fourth would be to provide more, to provide modulation of the flex space on fourth floor to reduce its mass to the exterior elevation. I think that's what I want to say. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question, Chair Moore.
Yes.
With that motion, are we not accepting, is this motion stating that we're not accepting the flex space as designed or presented?
It is asking for more modulation in the exterior of the flex space.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question also.
Mm-hmm.
Whether Mr. Six would consider just eliminating the fence. The applicant has said the fence around the transformer, that he really feels that it's better without the fence. Would we consider dropping the fence altogether?
I think if the secretary would read the second part of the transformer comments.
Provide softer and more landscape areas to each side in front of the transformer at the street.
No, the next one after that.
Explore to eliminate the hard fence. Is that what?
Explore to eliminate the hard fence.
Are we asking them to explore or to remove it?
I think remove it.
I think it
it's-
should be-
It solves several of the problems we've been discussing. It creates problems. The fence creates problems. So
I
I
would
think let's drop it.
I would support it being.
They can't open a landscape gate.
So it'll be a large,
So there'd be a large gaposis of where they have to get in, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So provide a solution to, well, so let's drop the, per- yeah, just the first one. Let's just leave it that. Eliminate the second portion of the motion regarding the fence. They understand what we want.
okay.
Approval with the second.
Any other discussion before we move forward with our vote?
Would we ask her to just repeat that one sentence, please?
Yes, let's repeat that section about the transformer.
Let's see. Provide softer and more landscape areas to each side in front of the transformer at the street.
Is that how you want it?
Well, let's, we don't, it might be impossible to do it at each side of the street. So, say around the transformer.
To each side or front of the transformer, maybe?
To more landscape areas around the transformer.
Around the transformer. Thank you.
Now, would you read it one more time, please?
Provide softer and more landscape areas around the transformer at the street.
Satisfies me.
Everyone's happy? Okay.
Satisfies me.
All right. Then we need to make our findings as well.
Do you want to do this, Leon?
You are doing
This
a
revised
masterful
PDA.
job.
So we do not need to make the findings for revised PDA, so.
Excellent. Okay, well then we can go straight to the vote.
Here we go. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
No.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
No.
Board Member Olson.
Yes.
For those
Motion
who,
passes.
for those who stated no, can you please state no and your reason why for the record?
I said no because I don't agree with the faux chimney at the elevator or the flex space comment.
And my no was also because of the flex space requirement or condition.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we can conclude our agenda for the day. Thank you very much, everyone.